Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to take a look at a firm's decision whether to shut down or to exit, why a firm would do this, and what's the distinction between these two decisions. So first thing we can note is that for a firm, right, when we're in a competitive market, we said there's really one choice they have, and that's to pick their quantity because price is fixed. But in addition to deciding quantity, they have a choice to, right, just not make anything. We have a choice to either not show up or we have a choice to outright get out of the market. So this first decision is going to be to shut down. And this will be a short run decision to just not produce anything today. This is going to be similar to us saying, I'm calling in sick, I'm not coming this week, whatever it is, it's saying today I can't make it in or today I'm not going to produce. In the long run, we have a decision to either enter or exit a market. And in the long run, we can outright leave a market. We can go do something else. So if we're thinking about a firm, if I'm a farmer and I'm making corn, right, I can sell my farm and completely get out. For us in our day-to-day lives, they can think, well, today, maybe I'm an economics professor today. Tomorrow, I can go quit my job. I can go do something else in the long run. But this exit is more of a permanent decision. So it's more quitting your job, completely selling your farm, whatever the case is. Whereas a shutdown is more along the lines of calling in sick or just calling the farmer's market saying, hey, I'm not going to be there today, whatever the case is. And one of the distinctions that we're going to see is that if we shut down in the short run, we still have to pay this fixed cost. So if you decide not to show up one day, you still have to pay your taxes on your farm. You still have to pay utilities. And same thing on a personal note. If if I call in sick, that doesn't mean I get to not pay my rent this month, right? However, in the long run, if we exit, what we'll end up seeing is there are no costs. So in the long run, right, 10 years from now, if I quit and I move to Boise, Idaho, I don't have to pay any more expenses to Boone, Iowa. Similarly, if I'm a farmer, if I get out, I don't have to pay property taxes. I don't have to pay for rent or anything like that for land that I'm not leased to or that I don't own in any way. So the first little bit that we wonder is, how do we know when to shut down and how do we make that decision? So when we look at this, what we'll look at is the cost of shutting down, the benefit of shutting down, and if the benefit is greater than the cost, we take that action, or if the cost is greater than the benefit, we don't take that action. So when we think about this, what we'll see happen is the cost of shutting down will actually be the loss of revenue or our total revenue. So if you're a farmer, if you don't show up to the farmer's market, you're not going to make any money that day. If you work an hourly position, you call in sick, right? You don't get paid hours for that day. However, when we shut down, we do have some benefit, and that's going to be the cost savings, which in this case is going to be our variable costs, right? So what we're looking at is not necessarily do I have to pay rent or not, but if I shut down, I don't have to pay my workers to come in. If I shut down, I don't have to pay for gas. I don't have to pay for my workers. I don't have to pay for food or anything like that, or any type of supplies, really. So we have that benefit. And what we're going to do for this is instead of saying, do I make a profit? What we're going to say is, do I gain? Am I better off being open than I am shutting down? So what we're going to see come up is that we'll shut down if our total revenue is less than our variable cost. And for this, we know that our total revenue is just our price times our quantity. Price times quantity. And our variable cost is our quantity times our average variable cost. So we can, if revenue is less than our variable cost, we can shut down. But if we take those quantities out, we end up seeing the second part, where if price is less than average variable cost, we will go ahead and shut down. So the scenario that we're kind of considering here, or if we look at our rule, right? And we look at our decision to shut down, right? What we're kind of seeing happen is, right, and we said we have this rule to shut down if the following is true. Price is less than our average variable cost. So if we're a monopolist, what this is telling us, if we look at this graphically, right, on the y-axis we'll have our money, on the x we'll have quantity of goods. So we have some fixed price. I'll put it down here a little bit. So this is our price. Remember, for a monopolist, the price is equal to marginal revenue, which is also equal to average revenue. Then what we'll have is a marginal cost curve that'll look something like this. And then we'll have an average variable cost where, say, at first we have something like that. So what we'll do, when we set these equal, we'll say MR equals to MC, and we'll get this green point. Then if we scroll down, right, we'll see that this is going to be the quantity. That'll be our profit maximizing quantity. And what we'll do is we'll analyze this average variable cost. In this case, we see that our average variable cost is down here. This might be P1. So in this case, so for our red dot, for our red average variable cost, we'll produce, because the price is greater than the average variable cost. However, if on the other side we have an average variable cost somewhere, say, up here, and it looks something like that, right? So we'll say that's 1 and 2, and I'll put a little down here. So in this case, again, we set our MR equal to MC, and we can scroll on up. And for this one, say we have a blue point, right? Then up here, we have a second price. We see that this price is above so this average variable cost is above the price of the good. So in our blue case, we would want to shut down because the average variable cost is greater than the price. So when we think about this, you'll notice we're using our average variable cost. And with this, in both cases, we're ignoring the fixed costs. And the reason is kind of going to shape from this example here. And what we're going to see is that we have what are called sunk costs. And these are going to be those costs that are already committed and they are not able to be recovered, or not, I'm going to say salvageable right now. Then we'll have this question, are they relevant to our decision-making process? And for that, the answer will be no. And as we look through, if we just think about what we have going on. So suppose you have a restaurant, right? And we're going to focus on kind of three costs: our rent, or kind of three things we'll focus on: our rent, our labor, and our revenue. So we'll say that for, say, February, we know that our revenue will be, we expect to make about $500 revenue, and our rent is $1,000, and our labor cost would say be about $200, right? So what we'll see happen is if we open, right, our profit will be our total revenue minus total cost. In this case, that's 500 minus 1,000 minus 200. So in this case, if we decide to be open, we see we're going to have about a $700 loss. However, if we close, we still have to pay that rent. So in this case, our profit will be the total revenue minus the fixed cost. And we'll see this is 500. Excuse me. If we're closed, we don't make any revenue. So this would be 0 minus our fixed cost, which is $1,000 a month rent. So in this case, we see that we lose out on $1,000. So in this case where we might be in the situation where we're not necessarily focusing on maximizing our profits, but actually minimizing our losses. And this is what we see here, right? When we're open, we lose $700, but if we close, we lose $1,000. So sometimes, maybe some months, we're kind of just trying to salvage some of our losses, get some of that back, so we're not completely losing out, right? And one of the things we'll notice when we're looking at these costs, in general, our fixed cost is going to be our sunk costs, right? Because in this case, in this little example I made here, no matter what we have to pay that rent. There's right. You can't tell your landlord, "Hey, we're not opening, so I'm not paying rent this month." Right? Your landlord is keeping that building aside for you, not renting out to anyone else, so you have to pay that. Right. So since that's a sunk cost, what we'll see is that our sunk costs should be ignored in the decision-making process. Now, the other side of this is that a firm has a long-run decision to exit. So this long-run decision isn't just, oh, I'm not showing up today. This long-run decision is to completely get out of the market. So in this decision, we're going to look just like we did before, but figure out what are our benefits, what are our costs. So if we decide to exit, we're going to see that we're going to give up our total revenue, right? Because again, if you no longer do a certain job, you are no longer getting money for it. If you completely get out of farming, no one's going to pay you for work that you don't do, right? But in this case, if we choose to leave the market, or if we choose to exit, we're going to see that our cost savings is going to be that total cost. So everything we would spend in this process would be our benefit. So in this case, what we'll see happen, we want to exit if our total revenue is less than our total cost. Just like before, we can think of our total revenue is our price times our quantity. And this would be less than our price times that'd be less than our quantity times our average total cost. So what we can do is we can take out these quantities, then we end up with this price is less than average total cost. And conversely, if the opposite holds true, if we're looking into a market, we would want to enter. So if we see that the price is greater than average total cost, we'd go ahead and enter. And when we think about this second scenario might be you see someone on campus selling water for $10 a bottle right out of a little cooler. You might say, hey, I can come in and sell water for $10 a bottle and make a huge profit on this. So in this case, you might decide to enter that market because you see that easy opportunity to make money. So when we put all this together, we have this question of, right, are we making profits? Are we making losses? We want to be able to tell how to graphically analyze that or how to graphically see that profit or loss. So to tell profit or loss, the main things we're going to look at are going to be the price of the good, the marginal cost of the good, and then we'll have the average total cost, right? Kind of the main things we're looking for in terms of profit and loss. In this case, just like always, set marginal cost equal to price. Remember, this is marginal revenue and the average revenue. So we set these two equal, and then we work on this one vertical line, which is this one quantity. And what we'll do is we'll find what is our average total cost at this value. So in this case, we look down here. And then we can kind of compare them. So we have our price up here, our average total cost down here. In this case, we see our price is greater than our average total cost. So in this case, we run a profit. We might say it's a profit since the price is greater than the total cost, or average total cost. And if we want to tell how much of a profit, we would just find the area in here. And then the formula for that would be that profit is equal to the quantity, which is the width or the length of this rectangle is the quantity down here. So we have our quantity times the price minus the average total cost. Right. That tells us how much of a profit we have, or it's just the base of this rectangle times the height of it. On the other side, we might say, well, right, how do we graph our losses if we're making that? Basically do the same thing. Things will just be a little bit backwards. So we'll have price and marginal cost again. For this one, I'm going to make the price just a little bit lower than I did before. And we'll have our average total cost somewhere up here. So in this case, we have our price is down here, where price is equal to marginal cost is our profit maximizing quantity. So this would be our Q star. Then we'll take this Q star all the way up to our average total cost. And just like before, we have average total cost up here, price down here. So in this sense, we have a loss since that price is less than average total cost. And then the value of our loss will be equal to the quantity, again, which is the width of this rectangle, times the average total cost minus the price, right? And graphically, our loss is that area. And as you're going through this, if you notice, a loss, so whenever we say loss, this is equal to basically the negative of our profit. So if we have a negative profit, it's a loss. If we had a negative loss, technically it'd be a profit, but normally we wouldn't think of it that way. That's kind of how you go about graphing your profits and seeing how all that works. I hope this video is helpful. I'll be making some more. I'll be making some more as I'm able to continue going through our notes and continue recovering materials we missed in class. Have a good day.